Kanban or Scrum? Where to begin? This is an important question. People come to my classes, either my Scrum class or my Kanban class. They're interested in learning about agile practices. They work in an environment that likely does not resemble a agile environment, and by that I mean they struggle to deliver frequently. They struggle to focus. Staff probably feel overburdened. They're doing many things simultaneously, changing priorities. Maybe they work in a project environment and they have in front of them wish lists of requirements that are expected by certain dates throughout the calendar year. Each wish list is associated with a project code and a budget. People are shuffled around throughout the projects as project managers try to make sure that each of the initiatives gets some attention. The reality is they're doing 100 things simultaneously and everything takes 100 times as long. And so they call me. They show up at my website. I advertise classes, Scrum and Kanban, and they reach out and they say, I'm interested in Scrum. I think they say that because it's the better known of the two. It doesn't mean that it's the better starting point. Scrum might be a great starting point if you're interested in these sorts of practices and you need disruption. Then Scrum is good. Scrum requires change. It requires that the cadence of delivery be sprint-like, in the sense that increments of new functionality will be released into the hands of end users on a cadence of not more than 1 month. That's called a sprint. And not every enterprise is going to be able to do that. Very few, in fact, are able to do that. So I often have a conversation with people about Kanban as they reach out to me. Imagine this. You leave my class and you go back to your environment and you work with your team to visualize the work. Where does work begin? And how and where does it end? How long does an idea take from concept to delivery? From idea to marketplace? You visualize that and you measure that duration. Then you, based on those measurements, you test whether your team's ability to deliver to the customer meets the customer's expectations. And if not, most certainly it probably doesn't. So you improve. You, as a group, you look at your workflow, study your customer's expectation, and make decisions about how to improve that workflow. That's what Kanban looks like after coming to my class. It's very pragmatic. That can be implemented immediately with some basic agreements among the team that you're working with. And then you can agree to work toward a more agile model where the team is able to improve their quality, deliver more frequently, perhaps clarify the roles, who is responsible for sequencing the work, who is responsible for delivering the work, how does the team evolve, how do we adapt our working agreements over time, how do we change with the organization. And after practicing Kanban for a while, what you might achieve is something that looks a lot like Scrum, in fact. You might have better role definition. You might have a cadence by which you plan and replenish the backlog. You might have a cadence by which you demonstrate and review the work done with stakeholders. You might have a cadence by which the team studies its workflow and makes decisions about how to continually improve. You might have an artifact in which you make visible the work that needs doing, and a different artifact in which you make the work visible that is being done. And then yet another artifact called the product that shows the work that is already done. future, present, past. And guess what? That is Scrum, essentially. And it was achieved through an evolutionary process rather than by a disruptive process. I guess what I'm highlighting is there are at least two ways, but two ways that I teach to achieve greater agility. One is begin with the set of working agreements that is called Scrum, and then enjoy the pain of changing the organization. Any disruptive change in an organization is going to require that the organization develop new muscles, new patterns. It's going to have to get good at entirely new processes. It's going to have to let go of the kinds of meetings that were previously in the calendar and replace those with Scrum's events. We do planning here every sprint. We do a review of the increment every sprint. We do a retrospective every sprint. We have daily stand-ups. Scrum is a set of working agreements, and often those working agreements are quite different than the de facto agreements that exist in an enterprise. Kanban, as a practice, is perhaps a gentler change. I mean, it can be disruptive to limit the work in progress of a team, of a department, of a company. But the practice of Kanban is, let's say, a set of working agreements that is much more compatible with most enterprises, at least as a starting point. And then how the team evolves from that basic set of working agreements is up to the team and their ability to invoke change in the organization. So if you haven't yet considered Kanban as an entry point for yourself or your team or your company as you learn more about agile practices, I would say it's a great entry point. Call me. Let's talk about it. Thanks for watching.